Big Said Podcast.
Wow. So that means it worked.
Woohoo! Producer.
Hello, hello. What's good, everybody? That was an intro that I liked. But anyway, Big Sad, the initial Cosign. Happy New Year. 3 weeks late. Um, Welcome everybody.
Too.
I have another featured person for my friends are better than yours. And I'm going to start the way I usually start, which is not knowing what I'm doing, and then we'll just take it from there. Yvette N. Harris is a seasoned PR storyteller, and I'm doing the dumbest thing. I'm not supposed to have anything in my mouth while I'm talking, so my apologies.
Rule number one.
Yvette N. Harris is a seasoned PR storyteller and media strategist, the visionary behind Harris Public.
Relations.
This is going to be real fun. Harris Public is a driven boutique PR firm with more than 25 years of experience. Yvette's career began at the United States Environmental Protection Agency in 1990. A native New Yorker, astute businesswoman, and single mother, she stands out for her ability to craft culturally relevant messaging and exec. You know what? Why don't you introduce yourself? Because I don't know why I always do
You just take it.
I get flustered as if I don't know how to read. And yeah, and yeah. So hi everybody. This is Yvette N. Harris from Harris Public Relations, and she's the latest on My Friends Are Better Than Yours.
I know. Am I the first one for the year? Yep. First one?
Actually, the second one.
Second one, right?
Well,
What's up, dude?
Let me phrase that. The first one is to be recorded in this year because I did one on New Year's Eve that I posted on January 1st.
January. Okay, so I'm not.
So you officially get the first.
I'm the first. Woo-hoo.
You're the
I
first.
Love it.
I just want to make it clear that it's not the first broadcast. But
Yes,
it's the first
I got it. I'm the first something. It's all good.
You're the
It's all
first one
good.
regardless. How are you today?
I am great. I'm great. It's not as sunny here in Miami as it usually is. I had to go in hard with the weather, but
yeah, we have
nonetheless.
I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and I'm going to tell people why we always have beef with this Miami weather versus New York weather thing.
Oh, listen. I mean, I'm always going to be a New Yorker, but I couldn't take the cold anymore. I couldn't take the shoveling of the snow because when I lived there, we used to go to school in the snow no matter what. New York City public schools never closed, right? And if the school was open, my mother was like, "You're going to school." So they used to have it on 10-10 winds, and the guy would always say, he would talk about how the public schools would be closed, the Catholic schools would be closed, and then the last thing he would say is, "All New York public schools are open." And as soon as he said that, it was a wrap. I was going to school. 20 inches of snow, didn't matter. Couldn't get out of the house, but I was going to school. So, but I'm glad to be here. As said, my name is Yvette Harris. My company is Harris Public Relations. So I've been doing PR for a really, really long time, and I'm only 22.
Of course.
Right, of course. And I got my PR start at the United States Environmental Protection Agency, Region 2, right in downtown Manhattan. I was the public affairs person for the Superfund program, which is the cleanup of hazardous waste sites. Originally, I thought when I went to college, I wanted to go into law. So I was a pre-law major for half a second. And then I switched to political science, and then I thought I wanted to run for a political office. And I actually interned with Reverend Floyd Flake, who was a congressman at the time in Queens. And I was with him for about 3 years, graduated, and, still continued to work there. And then one day I was just like, you know what, I don't want to do this. This is not what I want to do. So I went into his office and I had a conversation with him and kind of had a meltdown because I was like, what am I going to do after this? I don't want to do this. And he was able to introduce me to the director of community relations at the Environmental Protection Agency. And I fell in love with the whole PR world. And I was with EPA for 5 years. And then I moved to DC for 3 and opened up my company in DC. And yeah, been doing it ever since. So
you went from working with mess with the environment to dealing with mess in the industry,
pretty
in the
much,
industry.
pretty much.
So you had the right start to start it off.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that I did was like crisis communications, So a lot of my friends, yeah, so I'm all in it, right? And a lot of my friends during that time, they became music publicists, or they were film publicists, or they were pretty much concentrating on like one industry. And I know my temperament, and I know how bored I can get, so I didn't want to focus on just one thing. And hence why my company kind of dibbles and dabbles in a lot of different things: nonprofit associations, government, elected officials, special events, community, based events and initiatives. So, yeah.
That's good. Before I forget, I hate the fact that anytime I speak to you, you always, oh, it's so hot down here. Oh, how is it in New York? I heard y'all have 17 inches of snow while I'm on the beach relaxing with the sunny weather.
So I'm never on the beach during the week. Don't even tell that. I say that I can go to the beach, or I got my Jeep top down. That's what you're supposed to do when you move from New York. All New Yorkers do that. As soon as, but you know what? We don't say anything from June 1st to November 31st, November 30th, when it's hurricane season. You don't hear me talk about the weather at all.
You can't, but we too busy like dealing with whatever we're dealing with that it doesn't really matter. So
listen, the fact that I get to still do and have clients all over, but I get to work from a semi remotely warm place. It's a blessing. It's a good thing.
Well, actually, since we're on the subject of Miami and you're a New Yorker,
yes.
Why? I mean, I'm pretty sure I know why you would move from the great city of New York and go down to that miserable sunny place called Miami.
So really, it was only two reasons. That's just two. And everybody, whenever I tell them that, they're always looking at me like for some philosophical reason why I left. And the weather and the beach. So I'm a summer baby. I was born in July, and the beach and the weather was always a big part of my growing up, traveling existence. And I hung out with some friends in Harlem my last year there. And I was living on 130th between Lenox and 5th. And we came out of my brownstone. There was a sheet of ice. We all have like open toe shoes. We're all wrapped up in heavy coats. And the Harlem cab driver looks at us like we're crazy. And I was like, they were looking at me to, kind of go into my New York mode and say something to him. And I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be cold like this anymore. I'm done. So I decided that year that I was going to move. And a friend of mine had some contacts in St. Thomas. So he was able to get me like this kind of short-term, consulting gig. I went there. I was there for like two weeks or so. And the phone went down and the internet went down. And I was the only one in the office that was concerned. So I realized that St. Thomas wasn't going to be the place that I could live and, grow my business. So I got back on the plane, and I think I cried the entire time until I landed at JFK. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to move to Miami. And I only knew two friends, two people in Miami. And the phone went.
Sorry.
But I
just pressed Sorry.
So I only knew two people. And I called them up and I said, listen, I'm moving to Miami. I need to know everybody that you know. And I need you guys to just take care of me while I'm down there, and just introduce me to everybody and everything. So I moved, and, I networked my tail off, got really involved in the community, and, fast forward, here we are, 2024. 5.
It's funny because I don't think I knew this. Maybe I got there after you, but I lived in Lenox Terrace on 132nd.
Yeah, what year?
Between.
I think we've had that conversation though.
Why I thought I had this on.
Well, he said he was allowed to answer phones while we interviewing.
I have it on no disturb. I'm just going crazy. Hold on, I'm sorry.
That's like a landline phone.
Okay. Yeah, right. No, you know what's funny? That I have my. I just bought the iPhone 16 Pro Max.
Oh, look at you!
I have my iMac, and I'm on my Mac Pro. So all of it's funny, but I put on Do Not Disturb. That's why I'm like, why is all
Clearly,
this going on? Like,
clearly, you need to take out the directions when we get off and read
no.
them.
but
Well,
you know who it was?
This conversation because you lived there when?
I've been here 16 years, so I left. What? I guess 09.
You lived in Lenox, Texas.
08. 08, I left, so I was there for I was there for 8 years, so maybe like 2000 to 2008.
Oh no, I was already down
here.
You
were gone. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
yeah,
you were definitely gone. So and that was Hakeem Green that was calling me. I don't know why he's calling me. I don't know him. Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's why I mentioned it, because like just talking about him, and I don't like him, and he's calling me. But sorry for the interruption.
It's all good.
I lost my train of thought about next.
So you asked me why I moved, and really that's the only reason. So Miami is as far south as you can go, and when I was in New York, I lived in New York. I thought going to Jersey was going south. So when I came down here, it was a very different world down here. So I was just very, very focused, and yeah.
Well, let's go. Let's get into your PR journey, because I don't remember how I met you, but we met, and you're one of the few, because everyone knows I hate publicists.
I know.
Even though I do publicists, I always say people I hate publicists, but you're one of the few that I would actually like. If I could do something, I definitely would, and I don't like dislike, because people only contact me when I'm working with a brand that they want to be involved with. And there were a few publicists that between certain publications, when I had my website, because all the industry cosign is all I've ever wanted to do, but I was so great at doing it that these other publications wanted me to work with them. But I appreciated the fact that people like you and several others, regardless of whether I had nothing going on with any other brand publication, you're still like pitching me things, or you're still inviting me to places. And I definitely hold that, because I tell people, when people ask me for advice, and I'm like, listen, when you make your connections, you have to be careful. Of course, be strategic. But when you're not messing with me for the industry cosign, and then I go work for a bigger company, or a company with a bigger audience, now you just jump at me. I'm looking at you sideways, and I'm like, no, because I get it, and I get it, but But anyway, what goes through your mind when you're doing these? Because you've been doing it for so long, and I'm pretty sure, like, what is the best part of doing PR? Because I know you do like crisis management, you do with art, you just do so many things. What is the best aspect of the game that you appreciate and enjoy?
So really, it's amplifying a story, or even putting a story on the radar that wouldn't necessarily get any kind of coverage. The landscape that we live in. First of all, I live in Florida, and just the landscape, just across the country, where Black and brown stories aren't necessarily valued as much as other stories. And this is not just in Florida, it's all across the board. So just being able to give people an opportunity to tell their stories. Case in point, many years ago, there was a young man in a predominantly white community that had kind of rescued a cat type of thing, and they covered it. It was great, feel good kind of story. That same month, I pitched a story. I was working with someone in the historic Overtown community, and he had been homeless. He had, a high GPA in high school. He got accepted to like all of these colleges. President Barack Obama invited him to the White House. He had all of these things. He volunteered his time. There was so many different things. And I reached out to one of the local stations. That's my dog. If he sounds like he's dying, he's just.
I hope you don't have anybody tied up under the desk, like set up.
And I reached out to the reporter, and and I pitched the story, and she was like, "Oh, this sounds great. Let me pitch it. Let me get my boss involved, and let me see, if we could do a story on him." And I was like, "Okay." So she called me back like 2 days later, and she was like, "Yeah, can you give me some more information?" And I literally gave them everything except for the young man's blood type. And I was like, "Well, what else? I mean, like, this is a phenomenal story. And 2 weeks ago, you did a story on somebody that found a cat," which I'm not saying anything, is not great about that. But I'm like, "Are you serious?" And so she was like, "Well, like, did he?" And I was like, "What, did he invent something?" And she's like, "Well, did he?" And I said, "No, he didn't invent anything." And it just really clicked in my mind when she said that. I was like, wow, I said, "You know what? No worries. It's all good." And I just took the story to another news station. And, like it just really, it got to me that when it's a Black and brown story, it's got to be something that's just out of this world. It can't just be a good story, a good solid story. So for me, I make sure that, God bless you, I make sure that I hold, the media people accountable, and I remind them of those things, like, the same way you show up in other communities, because they'll show up if there's a shooting or there's something going on, but then come a good story and it's like, we can't get any cameras. We don't have any cameras available. You can't do that. But
why is this thing doing this now? Now people want to talk to me. Sorry, people, my phone has never rung, but as I stated, and
all of a sudden everybody's like, "Hey,
I got the." No, it's not that people don't call during, but
right.
It doesn't come up.
Right.
But being that I guess that I literally just bought the new iPhone 16 Max Pro, I spent so much money, so everybody's gonna know. No, I guess I gotta figure out the settings, but I'm on my Mac Pro and it has the do not disturb and everything else. That's why I don't know. Anyway, I apologize once again. Actually, why don't I just? I'm turning it physically off. I don't know what the hell. Maybe I should just throw it up. No, Lisa. Okay. Back to you. Culturally driven, community minded.
Mm-hmm.
That's the tagline.
Yep.
So, could you explain to us why?
So it's
I don't want to put it out there like to make it seem as if like it's like.
Yeah. No, it's me always being intentional and celebrating the nuances of all cultures, traditions, communities, with a twist, and making sure that we're always tapped into community stories that are impactful. And it's just real simple. I like the tag, but it resonates with the type of work that I try to intentionally do daily. Yeah, it's real simple.
Well, as you already know, knowing me for so many years, like I can't always stay focused because
I know. You're all over the place.
Yeah, I'm always all over the place. But I just when you're picking your clients, because I'm pretty sure you get the opportunity because people are always contacting you. When you do pick your clients, well, do you get when you pick your clients, like what motivates you? I mean, I understand the Black and brown community and the community aspect, but there's so many things going on. There's so many people, so many companies that want to get messages to people like me and other publications.
Mm-hmm.
Like what outside of the money, of course. Well, I'm not going to say because I don't want people to think that.
And you know what? It's not even money driven, to be honest.
Yeah, but I don't want people to think that. Yeah, so
it's so not money driven at all. But it really has to resonate with me. I think about 10 years ago, the clients that I started to choose, because when you first start out, you're working with various people, and then you realize that you can't work with everybody, so really 10 years ago, I just made a commitment to work with people that at least have some sort of community arm to their company, or they're open to doing something. Because I just really believe that, we all have an individual, calling to do something that is for someone else and for the benefit of other people, So I really try to, if they're not necessarily doing something, I try to make sure that I can maybe hopefully encourage them to do, whether they do a back to school, whether they do, some sort of initiative throughout the year. And they, and if they're not open to that, it's not that I won't work with them, but I just, I kind of think about it a little bit more. And then I have to definitely be interested in what they're doing. Because, if I can't sell it to somebody and pitch it to somebody and get somebody like you to be excited about it, then that's a moot point,
And the bad thing about me, which a lot of just people in general who deal, they know that I guess since I started my website, which is 21 this year, I'm not a trained writer. I never took a journalism class. It was just something that I decided to do. So I've always had the opportunity and the pleasure of writing what I wanted to write about. That's what it was all about with me. It was always about what I want to write about. So I know that a lot of people, one of the worst ways you can pitch to me is, this magazine did it, or this program did this program, this right. And the reason why I tell people that for me that it doesn't matter, because as you stated, if it's something I think my audience or even I like, I'm going to do it regardless of whether 50 publications covered it already or no one has. As a matter of fact, I would prefer to be the first one to let people
to kind of break the story. Exactly. Right.
So telling me that others like doesn't convince me, because my mindset is, well, you got them already, so you don't need me. But
and, I don't even include that in there. I think years ago we used to include it, like all publicists would include, so and so was in this magazine, and I think that just became something that kind of dropped off as we matured.
All of you were dealing with me. I kept saying, you know what, it's not working.
It's probably all your fault. Because you just I don't even say where they've been covered. Any I don't even have that in there in the pitch. I never do.
But I think it's fine if it's somebody that you really don't know yet, and they're trying to get a track record. Because like I said, I know like and one thing that I know this is about you, but I just want to throw this out there. One thing I hate, because it's February next month. One thing I hate when publicists contact me or people contact me for coverage, Black History Month, right? Of course, I celebrate Black History Year, Black History Day, but you can't pitch somebody about Black History Month that does Black History 390 days a year and a Black publication. I would hate when people are like, oh, Black History, and of course there's a lot of non-Black publicists that do it, and from the beginning of the month and to the end, like I'm on like, what bullshit am people gonna pitch me today about Black History Month or your Black History Month coverage? I'm like, I freelance for Black Enterprise, so it's always Black History.
It's always Black every day. 365.
I am Black. My site is Black focused, so it's always Black History. So I don't know why I just threw that out there, but like I said,
no, it's true. I mean, it's probably you probably, because when you're pitching, you probably I don't know if there's any reason. I don't do that to Black publications, but definitely sometimes you have to remind the other publications that it is Black.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
But you also have to remind them that you don't need to just do something for us in February. Like, we're good in March too. Like, holla. So yeah.
They only contact me during those 4 weeks, so.
But it can also be because they know that, you don't just have a Black audience. I mean, you have a multicultural audience as well. So maybe they kind of forget that. I don't know.
I just think I think some of them are just being lazy, to be honest.
That might be it.
And one thing that I do tell people specifically, at least when dealing with me, when people because I'm horrible with email. Everyone knows that. And it's not that I don't want to, it's just that I get so many. And I tell publicists, I'm like, Well, if you're trying to pitch me something, imagine that 1,000 times
Mhm.
on a daily basis. So,
If they're
people like,
blessed to have your cell phone number, they can
I
just
was about
hit
to
you
say,
up.
yeah, you like, you and certain people that you can like text me, and I always remind you, because then I'll see an email like, yo, why didn't you just text me? Because there were people that, because people know me. If I'm going to say no, I'm going to say no. So I'm not going to push it
Mhm.
aside. I'm just going to say no. But if I haven't seen it and it's like 3 weeks, and you have an event that happens in an hour, I'm going to feel bad because
Of course,
you
and then
said
you're
this
still gonna
6
cover it.
months ago. But I just get I get disappointed when people just expect me to be on my email all day. And I tell people, if I'm on my emails looking for your
You can't
pictures,
write your articles.
I'm
Yeah, you
not
can't do
writing,
your
I'm not
interview.
doing
Right.
things. So
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
and sometimes I ask people to just give me grace, because I had to learn to give publicists grace, because I know that part of your job is to contact me to get your client or the company, whatever, the publicity that you need. And if I'm not responding, one of the reasons why, well, I've always been this way, because I've always been straightforward. So if I'm going to say no, I'm going to say no for two reasons. One, because I'm going to say no regardless. And two,
Mhm.
I don't want you bugging me. I don't want you sending me 17 more
Right,
emails asking me,
right,
did I read? No,
right.
I didn't. I won't. And I'm saying no.
And
If
I'm
you
not
choose
going
to
to.
do
Right,
something,
right,
and I think
right. But
that
that's also part of which I always, with my PR interns, you have to, relationships are very key. So you have to get to know who you're pitching to and how
yeah,
they, because every one size does not fit all. Not everybody. I mean, long gone are the days where we used to actually call people. You had, desk interviews, or you sent something on a fax machine. Those are like that's, you don't do that. Some
fax me.
some writers don't want you to contact them at all. Sometimes they're like, send it to me in an email and that's it, or they want you to call them. Like, so if you don't get to know how
Yeah.
people want to receive their pitch, then you're doing yourself a disservice, to yourself and to your client, and or whatever company that you're working for.
'Cause
You know.
I think there are those that's like, I'm easy to work with. Then you have other people that's like, I can't get to them. I've had publicists like, I finally
I've
got
had
an
people
article
call
with
me
you.
and say, "I'm trying to reach out to Zed. Can you?" You know?
Yeah, and I think people think that it's personal, and it's not. Well, it's personal if I don't like you. If I
Well,
don't like you,
as a PR person, the first thing is not to take anything personal. That's PR 101. I don't
yeah,
take anything personal, because it may not be the right time. It may not be the right, fit for the media outlet, or the writer just may not want to cover it. And I'm okay with that. And that just means that maybe somewhere down the line I can circle back and cover, pitch something else.
and I get
Or you might come back to me and say, hey, that person that you pitched, I actually have a slot open for them. You're interested in doing it,
yeah,
so.
yeah. I'm just like I said, I'm lucky but unlucky that like one, I'm gonna do what I want regardless. So I don't have to like even when I was working at Vibe, or like any other the source and all those other publications,
Mhm.
like they never assigned me. They didn't give me assignments because I even when I started this, I had my Rolodex was crazy. I know we don't use Rolodex anymore, but my contacts was always actually I think that was the biggest draw for me
Mhm.
at one time, because like I didn't think that I still don't consider myself a writer, but I never thought that I was a good writer compared to the writers that I knew.
Mhm.
But I was able to get to people like quicker than other people. I've had people like even at Black Enterprise, I've done some stuff where like they used to come to me like, we're looking for so and so. They tried this measure, and I'm like, all right, let me take care of it. Make a phone call. Next, it's like, all right, at 3 o'clock, blah blah blah. So
Right,
it's like,
right. Because you had the relationship.
I have relationships, and I think that's one thing that's missing in this world, because everyone's accessible. Because we came at a time where there was no such thing as social media,
Yeah.
and nobody was accessible. So now,
Well, even the masthead. So you know what I used to go? I used to go down to Columbus Circle, or I would go down to Soho, and there was like this magazine store, and I would go in there, and I was just starting out, so I didn't have a whole lot of money to be spending, for money for sandwiches and that kind of thing. I had just enough money for a croissant
the
and a
only thing
cup
you
of
do
tea.
is read.
And I would take down all the magazines off of the rack, and I would copy down all the mastheads and see who I needed to pitch and call, and fax. You know, there was there was really no email addresses there. It was just call or fax it, you know. But I did it, you know, and I was there twice a week. That so much so that, you know, a lot of times they would just throw in my croissant, wouldn't charge me for the tea.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're good.
you did what you had to do to, you know. So now I tell, you know, these emerging PR people that are, you know, coming up and they just want to do everything so differently. I go, it's about relationships, you know. I said, and you have the internet at your you can Google it and look it up. So the fact that you say you want to be a publicist and you can't name 3 writers in any industry or even local writers, you don't really want to be a publicist. You want to be something else, but you don't want to do PR.
But I'm glad you brought that up because I've had this conversation with several writers and over the years, people like the publicists these days would rather be the story or would rather be seen than the clients they're supposed to be working for or working with. And me personally, like for me to even do this was a stretch because even when I was doing video interviews, I was never on camera because for me, it's never about me. People would tease me about sometimes like my hair being out. I'm like, it's not about me. It's about the person.
I'm in the background.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, but these publicists nowadays, it's
very, very different. Yeah. And very rarely will you see me taking a photo, being in a photo. You know, my clients get upset with me because they'll be calling me to get up on stage, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm back here. No shout outs. I'm good.
We need to get back to those days because, you know, I've been seeing these red carpets and the publicist gets on, they take their pictures before they bring the client on.
The client's like, hello, I'm here.
I'm like, yo, son, you know,
it's very different. I think social media has definitely glamorized, you know, the world of PR. Remember when Lindsey Grubman, when they had the MTV, the PR girls, and I remember during that time I did when John Kerry and John Edwards were running for president and vice president, and MTV, that was the first and only time that they ever did the award show down here, because I think it was almost a hurricane, and they were like, yeah, we're never, ever, ever coming back to Miami. So they hired me to do a red carpet event and everything. And it was, you know, I forgot, I was about to make a point. What was the point I was saying? I just forgot.
We were talking about MTV Publicists.
Oh, so I had a few interns. One who's like, oh my gosh, he's like mega great. And all of my interns have gone on to do amazing things. One is a director of PR for Adidas. She was actually in Essence magazine as the 40 under 40 BE. You know, she just got an award. But there was this 2 people that I had that were interns. And, you know, like it was a lot of work. So first of all, we had to work with the Secret Service. So everything changed on a regular basis, you know, because once you announce your candidacy for president, you get Secret Service duty. So every time we put together a plan for the red carpet and all this stuff, you know, I get to the office the next day and they would have sent a fax because that's how they were communicating with us. And, you know, they would change everything all around. So this young man and young woman, you know, they were like, well, this is a lot of work. Like, this is, you know, why are all these changes and and they really believe the whole PR girls story on MTV. And, you know, when I sat down and I did the closeout with them, because they were getting credit from college. And I said, that's not what PR is like work. Like, I work every day. Like, I work my tail off every day. And what you're seeing on TV, there are some glamorous aspects of it, but for the most part, there's nothing glamorous about what I do. I love what I do, but it's not glamorous. You know, I'm not in the public eye all the time. I mean, you have moments, your red carpet moments and, you know, just your press conference moments and your, you know, certain things. But for the most part, it's a lot of phone calling, it's follow up, it's writing, it's this, it's, you know, and I just suggested to them that they might want to think of another career.
Yeah, be an IG model. Let me stop.
Because the idea that when they came to me was so completely far-fetched from what people do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Which is why I always encourage people to do an internship, if you do want to go into PR, do an internship and really see if it's something that you really want to do, you know.
Now I know I'm like everyone that watches me knows that I'm bad because I always have like bullet points or things to like try to focus on so that way I can try to get something out. Not I get something out of it, but to try to just to get, but just get caught up in conversation sometimes, and it's like that's the only. I'm not gonna say bad thing, but speaking to people I actually know, and I know I can veer off or accidentally say or do something, and it goes in a different direction, and nobody gets upset. And it's like, no, you got to focus on this. So, but I was just reading something as I looked up. Now, oh, you know what? Since specifically to Miami, because the only reason why I like because you're in Miami, you invite me to things in Miami. But like you've worked with like Miami Carnival, American Black Film Festivals. What do you believe distinguishes culturally relevant messaging from conventional PR strategies? Yeah. I try to sound intelligent every now and then. So
yeah, so I think a good way to describe it would be, especially living in a state like Florida, where people are trying to erase history, Black history, change history. So I think that being true to the cultural aspect of it, whether it's the Caribbean community, whether it's the African American community, whether it's the African community, whether it's the Hispanic community, white community, being very authentic and not having to, what's the word, lighten that up a little bit. Like, just being authentically who you are. This is the culture. This is, and positioning it so that people will be educated about it, because I think that the reason that most people have a fear about something is because they don't really understand. They don't take the time to understand people and culture, So I'm not sure if I answered the question, but I think that kind of in my mind, I did.
And that's all that matters, because
So that's what I'm going with.
There's no right answer.
There's no right answer.
It's just your answer.
So I tell my daughter, it's just my answer. It's no right answer. It's just what I said.
And speaking of like answers and giving advice, when you're dealing with clients that may see things one way, but you see it a better way or the right way, how do you approach that? Like of course, personality is always you have some people that's going to be like, okay, I believe you, but there's always going to be one that's like, no, we need to do it this way. Like, how do you approach?
I have a lot of clients that are like that, and the only thing that I can do is give them all the information in a very concise manner and say, this, I hear what you're saying, but if you do this, this is what will happen, or this is the result, or this, and I just encourage you to just think about both sides. And then you just, you can never force somebody to do something, but 9 times out of 10, I'm able to kind of get them to, I do have a few clients that are just like, nope. And I go, okay. And I have to go along with it. But then they always come back and it's like, oh, I should have listened. I should have done this. And I should have, because sometimes people have to learn their own lessons. We all have to learn our own lessons. So the only thing that I can do is give it to them in a way that it's not like I'm like, you should do this, and and just be really clear and empathetic in my tone, and just give them all the information. I had 2 companies last year that hired me to do their crisis communications during the crisis. So they didn't have anything written. They didn't have anything, until the crisis. And, so it was just really a matter of providing them with all the tools that they were going to need to get out of the crisis that they were in, and then prepare them for anything that might come down the line. And, and it was a little challenging because they weren't necessarily wanting to communicate with the stakeholders, the staff and everything, so when you come into somebody else's company to consult, they already have a cultural, landscape that they follow. So you're not always going to be able to change that. The only thing that you could do is provide the information and then allow them to make their decision, and I don't lose any sleep at night if you don't make what I think is the right decision, you know. So.
I often wonder that with publicists or just people in general that's working projects that they believe in that actually are good projects, but the media may not be as warm to it because we can have a great relationship, but if it's not something that I think that my audience will like or that I personally don't like, I might just pass because it's like, yeah, catch me on the next one because this one,
It's just you're not feeling it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as you mature in your journey, you don't take it personally. I think in the very beginning you do, because that's just human nature. But I think as I know for me, as I matured, and just have been doing this for so long, I always go, you know what, it's probably not the right time. And sometimes it's revealed to me that it really wasn't the right time. And for some reason, there's always seems to be an opportunity where that person or that media outlet will circle back, and I'm able to do something. So, which is why I always probably try to pitch everything really early. I'm always known as an early pitcher. I'll send you stuff that, for June, and you'll be like, really?
For the Winter Olympics.
Right. But it works. Like I pitched an outlet on something back in November, and I knew, and even when I sent it to her, I said, I know that this is so not on your radar right now. I said, but I just want to get it, I want to just put it there and then, see if there's anything that could happen maybe next year or whatever. And sure enough, she called me on January 2nd. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you sent that to me because you were the first person that I thought of and I had it. And I didn't need to look for anybody else because you had already sent me what I really needed for this story. So, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I don't know, because I know, publicists live in the rejection in order to be successful. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds crazy because people don't understand. You have to understand rejection or deal with rejection in order to be successful. And I say that because you're going to approach 100 publications and 2 might say, okay, this time, but the next time you may get 98. Exactly. So,
so just wait. I just want to just share something. So I had a client many, many years ago. So we got her an interview on the Today Show. And it was a segment. And as a matter of fact, they utilized the studio here and they were able to, get her on. And, and I mean, I was like, oh, this is the Today Show. I was excited. I was like, yes. And she was just as like nonchalant about it. And I mean, so in addition to that, we had pitched her to this a local magazine here, really, prominent magazine, but it was local, and it was great. When that article came out, when I tell you she called me and she's like, oh my goodness, I shared it with everybody. And can I get copies? And I'm going, how come we didn't get this excitement for the Today Show? Do you know how hard that was? So listen, you just have to, I always try to, when my daughter was really young and we would go into like Target or the toy store, I would look at her and be like, okay, I need you to manage your expectations because what we're not doing is we're not going in here, we're not buying up everything. We might get one thing or we might not get anything because we're shopping for somebody else. So for me, I have to take my own advice and I manage my expectations of what, because sometimes what my client wants and what I want for them is completely different. And sometimes what they get excited about, I may not understand. I might get excited about something else. So, but that was the funniest thing. She was like, oh, can I get copies? And I was like, yeah. I was like, but what about the Today Show?
She's like, oh, that was.
She was like, whatever.
Do you have any since you work with festivals and carnivals and things of that nature, mm-hmm. Do you have any idea or if there was like something you could work on? Like, do you have any particular events mm-hmm. that you would like to work on or be involved with that you haven't done yet?
That I haven't
that you would like to do, or you can envision doing?
That's a good question. Events that I haven't done. I've done quite a few. I mean, I've done some events in different countries, whether it's health initiatives. So I would like to do more, and I do a lot of youth oriented events, but I would love to do something like whenever you have like an older elected official or something like that. I'm always thinking like, I won't mention any names. We had somebody that came out of retirement and ran. And I was so disappointed that she decided to run for, a seat again, because I was thinking like, I just felt like, she had served the community. She had done all the things, and I just thought that she would have done better, like creating a nonprofit organization to inspire young people to run for to run for an office, because I don't see a lot of the politicians kind of passing the torch or being, mentors, or maybe I'm sure they do individually. I do know some that do it individually, but, just having like an organization where someone in high school could say, oh, or graduating from college can say, you know what, I want to run for president, but I know that there's some steps that I need to take. I might need to get on the school board. I might need to, but I feel like there should be some place. And the more I talk about it, the more I think that maybe that will be my next phase of creating something or partnering with somebody to do that, because I just believe that we have not done a good job in terms of providing information and resources to young people to be political, So I've had this conversation like 4 times this month, and I have a feeling that it's being placed in my heart for a certain reason. So I'm always like, am I supposed to be creating this?
Something might fall in your lap when you least expect it.
Exactly, but something like that. But I'm really, really blessed in terms of the events and the initiatives that I get to work on, even like during the pandemic, when, I believe that we were only going to be inside for 2 weeks, and then the 2 weeks became a month, and then 2 months. And I was like, but I worked a lot, because at that time, and especially, once when George Floyd was murdered, there were a lot of companies that did not have any kind of, diversity or inclusion or anything that was in that realm. So I wrote a lot of, their statements. I did some work with, companies like that. And then I went back, after everything was kind of over, and I, put them on blast, not put them on blast, but reminded them that, you're not doing the work that you said you were going to do. You have this great statement on your website, but, now we need you to get involved and write a check or, do stuff. And, now the landscape of that is just kind of in the winds, but I don't believe that it's fully dismantled. I still believe that there are companies that are still, figuring out what they can do in this climate that we live in now.
Cool. Now, I know like most of the things you do now within arts and culture, education, community type things. Trying to figure out how to phrase the question, because you worked in entertainment like solely at one time, and now it seems as if like you kind of
I did kind of. When I lived in DC, it was more entertainment. Yeah, it was more.
Let me rephrase that. My dealings with you were more
right. Your entertainment, right.
So yeah, so
because wait, did you do something when I was working with Gano Grills? Remember In Too Deep, the movie?
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I'm pretty sure
it might have been around that time. Oh, he was. So he was funny. He was a great guy to work with. But he was my true lesson in terms of nothing is off the record, because I was very specific with him when I said, listen, there's nothing off the record. Like if you don't want it printed, don't say it. No matter what anybody tells you, no matter, they give you a safe space, and he did the interview with Upscale magazine, and like a week, and that was when you would get a tear sheet before it would get printed, so they had already sent me the tear sheet, and he decided to change his mind about a couple of answers. And I was like, there's nothing I could do. The article is already printed.
Yep.
He was so annoyed with me, but yeah. So entertainment. So probably one of the reasons I have done quite a few things, in entertainment. And I don't know. I'm not 100% fulfilled, because artists and athletic, people. Sometimes I don't believe that. Sometimes I don't feel like they really need a publicist. Sometimes I feel like they need a babysitter. I mean, I'm probably going to get some backlash on that, but it's not something that I really get excited about in terms of like entertainment. I do publicity on, if I'm working on an event, then, or if the entertainer is doing like real good community stuff, then I get excited about that. But I just didn't see myself just doing entertainment, yeah.
I mean, I prefer to do executive interviews as opposed to celebrities. Like I've done some over the years where well, everyone knows me, my personality. I don't care about much when I talk,
Right.
And my thing has always been with I always bring this up every now and then whenever I talk to somebody. Had an interview with Jermaine Dupri when I worked at Impact Magazine, set the schedule up, and like he what I wasn't as important, so I called, wasn't available. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Now I know some writers who will wait hours to get an interview. That will never be me.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
And I remember he called back maybe about 2 hours later. And he's like, hey, Big said this, that, and other. I'm like, yes. And he's like, let's do this interview. I said, we had to schedule it. He's like, well, I had this. I was like, I understand, but just like your time is valuable, my time is valuable. So now I have to get back to you. Never did the interview only because at that point in time, I'm one of those, I don't care anymore once I get to that moment.
You missed your opportunity.
I'm like, and one thing I used to hate about some of my colleagues when I was coming up was they would get so excited to interview like whatever celebrities that I think in general celebrities knew that it was a lifetime opportunity for them, so they can treat it in that way. I'm the opposite. I'm like, listen, if you can't respect my time, I'm not going to respect your time. And which is the reason why like Ludacris was probably my best interview, not as far as content, but because he was so receptive, so friendly. Like I think I got there early. He was eating, offered me food, and I'm like, and I felt bad.
Yeah.
I can appreciate people like that. And then I see him at a party later that day. Now me, I have many friends, so I don't need to meet anymore. And even still, like some of my colleagues will try to be friends with some of the people that they speak to. When the interview's over, I'm like, whatever.
You're done, right?
Yeah, but he saw me. He's like, yo, what's up? I was like, oh, what's up? He's like, he looked at me like, and I knew his manager. He's like, why you act like you ain't know him? I said, no, it's not that. I said, it's that I know that one, he's probably spoke to about 25 people today. Probably doesn't remember me, and I'm not going to be the kid that's going to be on some old. Do you remember?
I interviewed you. Yeah.
I'm never going to be that guy. And he's like, nah, but he also knew me. Like his manager knew me, so it's like he already told his manager this one is cool. So, and I get it sometimes because I have a lot of good publicist friends who like beforehand they'll tell the whatever, and I get it. But I just have this mindset where it's like I'm more important than you, and I know some people don't like that, but it's not that it's disrespectful towards them.
Right.
That it's for me,
of course.
because I don't want to get lost and caught up in the
whole celebrityism. Yeah. When I first moved here, I was hired by, I won't mention who they were, but it was a family group to set up interviews for them. And when I tell you I had every outlet down here in their studio to get a phone call from the manager to tell me that they were not going to do the interview. And I was like, what? Like, how's that work? because literally everybody is in the studio waiting for them to come in like 10 minutes. And I was like, well, who does that? And I had to get off the phone, turn around, and make an announcement. Like, I could still remember that day like it was yesterday. And I'm thinking to myself, because I'm new to the area, so your reputation to be able to deliver when you say that you have something is, from me, has always been, my reputation is very important to me, and now I have to tell these people that the person, the group that they came all the way down in traffic for, not only are they not going to be late, they're just not coming.
Yeah.
And, I made the announcement, and I'll never forget one of the media outlets that I work with on a regular basis. She came up to me. She's like, don't worry about it. She's like, we kind of know their reputation. So we know that you had this interview. We're not going to hold this against you. But I was like, I couldn't believe that. I mean, I was crushed. And then, later on, they reached out again for me to do something. And I was just like, yeah, no. I mean, I had forgiven them, but I was like, I would never want to have somebody, do something that's going to tarnish my reputation like that. Like, that to me was just unprofessional, So I never worked with them again in that context. So, and not for a lack of them trying, but I just was like, no.
Once you get that reputation,
not gonna set me up again.
I know I've messed up a couple of things, and I know like people hold it against me, and I can't be mad at it. It's like, if I say I'm going to do something and I didn't do it, and I have no excuse to why I didn't do it, because listen, I can't be mad, and I'm like, you know what?
It's just, and people are like, oh, you need to forgive them, and it's like, I forgive them, I love them, I still listen to them, I go see them, I just can't personally work with them. Like, I just can't put myself on the line, because that was I was devastated. I was completely devastated, because I was like, who does that 10 minutes before you're supposed to show up? So
well, since you probably touched on this a little bit, but like, what advice would you give to anybody who wants to be involved in this field and be successful?
So definitely, if you're going to college, I would say major in something that you enjoy. Definitely major in, writing, because you need to be able to write, period. You got to write. You need to be able to write. Reading is important, and reading is not going on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Like, you need to read, the Dallas Morning News, read the Washington Post, read the Guardian, read Vibe, read Industry Cosign, like, read, it's so key. And then I would say, find a mentor, intern, and, if you do get the opportunity to be a publicist, enjoy the process, because I think sometimes PR people don't enjoy the process. I enjoy it. I enjoy the process. Even when I don't like the process, sometimes I enjoy the process. So if you're not having fun, and I always tell, whenever I go to speak to students, I tell them that about anything that they're going to go into. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, you should think about doing something else. I have a friend of mine that she worked for a company, literally for the federal government, for like 20 some years. And she hates when I bring up how many years she's worked, but she has literally hated her job for 20 some years, and it's taken a toll on her mentally. When you don't enjoy it, then go to something else. So the day that I wake up and I'm not passionate about PR and I'm not enjoying it, I'm not having a good time, I will be on to next.
Yeah, because there's certain aspects of what I do I hate, but overall, I kind of enjoy it. But like I said, there's always good and bad, and I think that people are always expecting good, especially dealing directly in entertainment, sports, and things of that nature, where everything looks as good as it looks on TV, without realizing the grunt work behind the scenes.
Yeah, you have to be ready to roll up your sleeves and work. I've had interns that have followed me for the day, and by by 3 o'clock, they're like, Miss Harris, are we gonna eat? And I'm like, oh shoot, we didn't have lunch? Okay, yeah.
He's like,
sorry about that.
Can I use the bathroom? It's been 3 days.
Right. Can I just breathe?
Yeah.
you know, which I'm getting better about. I'm getting better about, you know, the balance of the time. And, you know, as I think since I became a mother, I'm a work in progress. I'm not 100% there, you know, but I'm definitely.
Your daughter's like 38. What are you talking about a work in progress?
Gosh, she's not. She's 16. I can't believe I have a 16-year-old. It's like, I can't even believe it. It's like so surreal. She turns 16 in December, and I'm just like, wow. She's got 2 more years of high school, and then she'll, you know, be off to college. And I just can't even believe like so much time has gone by. Like it's just it's insane. It's really insane.
Yep. But I know, like, what? How do you? Because you're in a position where you speak to people on a daily basis, regardless of whether it's clients, um, media organizations, whatever. We all have bad days or days we don't want to deal with anybody.
Mhm.
How are you able to cope with when you're having one of those days, but there's a big event coming up or a big event going down where you have to be on point? How do you handle that?
So thank God I don't have a lot of bad day. I mean, I have situations that happen, and so if you ever call me, you know that my voicemail says life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. So I really, really, really believe that, you know, so things can happen, or I could be in, you know, not feeling well, but I really have to, for me, I have to lean into gratitude, because there's always somebody that's got so much other stuff going on that's so much worse than my little minute little feelings or whatever. And really, my daughter really inspires me. Like I think we're like the yin and the yang. So the days that she's kind of like, you know, I'll try to reset that, and vice versa. But you just have to plug through it. You know, it's not like you don't get a day off. Like I can't call in sick. Who am I calling in sick to?
Exactly.
You know, I can't call in and say, you know what, I'm having a moment. I don't feel like coming. I just have to reset. I go get myself some chai tea, which is my favorite, and, you know, listen to some cool music. And then by the time I get to wherever I have to go, it's on and popping. And then I feed off of other people's energy as well, you know. So I may run into a big said, you know, who's got me cracking up. So I have forgotten the fact that I woke up and, you know, not in a not so great mood, because you've got me cracking up about something that's crazy. And then I'm able to kind of, you know, get into my day, or get into the whatever the, you know, the process is. Listen, we had this past year, the possibility of a hurricane coming during Miami Carnival. This is the second time doing Miami Carnival during a pandemic, and having to get people tested. And, you know, like, it has been some crazy, crazy stuff that I've, you know, had to navigate. But when you think about, you know, why you're doing something and the importance of it and the celebration of it, for me, it gets me back on track to just be like, okay, I'm gonna make this happen. So, and then, you know, normally it's really sunny and hot here, so it's a little easier. So I never knew how much the weather played on your whole psyche until I left New York. And I went back that first, I think it was like, I went back in March, or right in the middle of winter. I had been to the beach. I'm all sun-kissed, and I'm meeting some friends in Brooklyn, and I'm like, hey, and everybody's like, you know, everybody's got that. And I'm like, what? Like, what? Was I like this when I lived in New York? Oh my gosh, you know? So.
I mean, the good thing about living in New York is once you go someplace else, you can handle anything.
You can handle anything, literally. You really can. You know.
Speaking of handling anything, you know, your governor, like, how does, I mean, we're going into a new administration, presidential administration in days. You're already in a state that seems as if like they hate anything not completely white, you know. Um, Outside of all the good things about living in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you cope with knowing that certain liberties might be on the table to take off, or the fact that they're taking Black history or books out of the schools and things of that nature? Like, how does it feel to live in a state where you're still not
Equal.
respected,
Yeah.
treated as people. Like,
Listen, it's a challenge. When the NAACP called for, people not to go to Florida, to boycott Florida, and we've got major events that we're working on. And it was a real thing, because corporate companies are like, well, why should we go? And listen, we that live here, we can't just pick up and just move. Our lives are here. My daughter goes to school, but what we can do is be intentional about what we do when we come here, in terms of, how do you spend your money? Go into the Black community and spend your money. Go into communities and spend your money. Be intentional about coming here, to celebrate, to inspire, to support, because we can't just make this mad exodus voluntarily. We might have to do it involuntarily.
you might have to do it anyway, but
we have lives here. So it was a real, real challenge during that time. ABF was, Carnival. There were like a couple of other Black owned companies that did, and they really had to justify. And the biggest thing that we could tell them is like, listen, still come, but go over the causeway, get off of South Beach and go into the Black community and purchase something, get a t-shirt, go to a Black owned restaurant, be intentional about your money. Because it's easy to say, oh, you shouldn't be living in Florida. Well, if that's the case, we shouldn't be living anywhere, because, here it's just out in the open. There are places, it's all over. So I think it's just being intentional, knowing that, if you have children or nieces or nephews, you're responsible to teach them Black history, American history. It's your responsibility, because they're not going to necessarily learn it in school. My daughter was in middle school. She's at 5 days into February, and every day I'm asking her, like, what'd you guys talk about today? She's like, not only did we not talk about anybody, they didn't even mention that it was Black History Month. So I wrote an op-ed piece in the Miami Herald, and, got all these calls, and, oh my gosh, Miss Harris, the principal called, the superintendent called, and, some of my friends in the education, they were like, oh my gosh, you ruffling up feathers. And I'm just like, if it's Hispanic Heritage Month, y'all are hitting us up in August. The month hasn't even started, and we got emails. We got 28 days. Like, you can't figure it out, So,
yeah.
I think everybody just does their part, no matter where they live. And, like, we're not going anywhere. We're here. We deserve to be here, so it's our responsibility to make sure that, and that's why these stories and these communities are so important, because if we don't tell them, they will just try to erase those stories. So
Definitely, but is there anything that we haven't discussed that you'd like to discuss? Or
no, but what I would like to do is just thank you, publicly. Real talk. I think, for most of us PR people that have known you for so long, you're consistent. You got some challenges with getting back to us sometimes, but that's okay. But you're really about community. You're really about, information. And I don't think that you get enough credit for, the landscape that you've created, and the path that you've created for others to come up, and be the big sets of the world, and the millennials, and that kind of thing. So I know I appreciate you beyond the moon, for the support that you've given me, my company, and all of the things that you've done. And I'm proud of you, creating this platform. Don't even, creating this platform, because these are stories that need to be heard, and you never know how you're helping other people who may decide that they want to or not do something, in terms of a career in music or entertainment or what have you. So, kudos to you.
Thank you.
And can I go to Jamaica with you, Ronnie?
I have an extra.
I can just get in the suitcase.
Fit in, you might have to feel a couple of bumps on the way, but
You know? So yeah.
I haven't been to Jamaica 20 years. I've
Oh
only been there once.
wow.
Yeah, so
Okay. Oh yeah.
I'm
It's gonna
definitely
be
gonna.
nice.
The
It's
only, the
warm,
only thing
it's warm there because I think New York is supposed to be getting another cold spell or some snow.
that's the only. I'm not gonna say only. I should say only. That's a good thing about going there now because it's cold now.
Right.
Because I had the opportunity to go in July, and I'm like, I am not
Still within the
leaving
same.
a hot, humid area to go to another hot and humid area. And the difference is when I go there, I can't just go wherever I want
Right.
because I'm not
'Cause you're
familiar with Jamaica like that.
right.
At least when I'm home, I have
You-
AC. I don't have to care about anything. So, I turned that situation down when they hit me back. I was like, January? Okay, that sounds
Okay,
better.
I can do that.
I know I'm going to be frustrated because I just hate like everyone that knows me. If it's over 80 degrees, I'm not leaving my apartment.
All right.
If it's over 80 degrees.
Well, the good thing about it in Jamaica now, it's warm, but there's no humidity, so it's just like
No,
it's really nice.
no, not. I checked it. I just checked it like
It's
yesterday.
humid. Well, it's not really
80%
humid here.
humidity.
Yeah, but it's not summertime humidity. It's
Humidity is humidity.
it's not because even here we have humidity, but it's not like stifling months where it's about to
Y'all
be
got like 12% humidity. Cut it out.
like no, it's
Oh no. Yeah, it gets bad
it's
sometimes.
comfortable, but come April, May, then it's like, but that's why I moved down here. So I never ever complain about the humidity, except for like 2 years ago. I think we had humidity from like March to like December. And I think a few times I was on a little bit of a complaint rant. And people were like, not you complaining about the weather. And I was like, yeah, I'm a little over this.
I wish I had known. I wish I had known about it then.
But yeah, you should have a good time. The weather will be nice. And listen, it'll be 12 degrees in New York. You'll be good.
True. I mean, and yeah, I'm gonna definitely enjoy myself because you always got to make the best of a situation. So I'm gonna make the best out of a situation.
It should be. It's a really nice event. So you'll have a good time. Really cool vibe.
But I'm not really into, of course, Jamaican music like that. But at
Mhm.
the same time, it is what it is.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
I'll go there, take some pictures, film some things, eat some
You'll have a
food.
good time.
Yeah, hopefully I don't come back like 7 pounds heavier.
At least it's not during hurricane season when you went to Cancun.
Yeah, 'cause I got caught. I got caught in the beginning stages of what
Oh gosh, I don't know.
which one it was, but
Who was it? I don't remember which
I
hurricane.
forgot. Yeah, but
I was like,
so
you should get out there, get your flight, get out,
and then you told me, oh, you should stay just because. I'm like, I
But you know what? Because I didn't realize that the hurricane was like right there until I went online and I looked and I was like, oh shoot, he literally is in the hurricane. I didn't realize that at the time.
and they didn't really tell us either.
Mm-mm.
I watched the news, so I'm like, this doesn't look too.
Something's not right about this.
But the good thing would have been if anything had happened, outside the weather, of course,
Mhm.
they were paying for everything. So like,
Yeah.
and it was at a resort, so it's like I had everything I needed. But I'm like, I don't want to get stranded.
And not be able to
That
get
would have
back.
been a good place to get stranded, but when you want to go home, you want to go home. So it's like,
Yeah,
and
I hear you.
the flight was delayed a couple of hours, and I was cool with that. But
It could have been so much worse. I mean, you were
no, I
really
know,
very
no,
fortunate.
a lot of people's flight did get canceled. But the funny thing is that we was at the airport, there was no airplanes at the airport. That was not a good sign.
Oh wow. Yeah, no.
I was like, come on, I'm not gonna.
Right.
The only good thing would have been like I would have been able to take a cab back to the resort, and they would have took care of it. But it's like, once you get in that mode where you want to get home, you just want to get home.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I did not realize it until I looked. I was like, oh my God, he's like in the hurricane.
Yeah, and they didn't say anything. Like I said, if I wasn't watching TV, well, actually, at one point in time they had to because they knew that there were people that could get the flights could be canceled and things of that nature. And by that time, it's like, okay, everybody, if your flight is delayed or this is that and other, or if you did because like I said, they gave us the option to just stay. And I'm like, another free night in Cancun, not having to do anything. I didn't go in my pocket on that trip at all.
Yeah.
Not even to take out my wallet. Like it was so beautiful.
Nice.
And
That's sweet.
that's what I'm planning on doing when I get to Jamaica.
See?
The only time I take my hands in my pocket is to shake somebody's. Oh no, I'm not going to put my hands in my pocket. So
Right. Because you're not pulling anything out. So yeah, you're good.
So. But I want to thank you for the many years of what became a friendship, work relationship turned friendship, and you always look out for me whenever you can, and even though I haven't come around as much because of other reasons, I do appreciate always getting the invitation. And
well, we get you down here this year.
Yeah. If I gotta come there just to rest, I'm just gonna come there and rest.
Yeah,
it's still gonna be on the industry cosign and nothing else, or maybe my situation will change.
You should come maybe for Soul Basil, like at the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you would enjoy that.
If nothing else, I would prefer, because when I came down to Carnival,
and that was
I was so frustrated, that heat, and then where y'all had it at, there was no shade.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Even in the VIP area. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm like, it's still hot.
It's so hot.
I'm like, it's beautiful to be around all this
I'm
thing.
so hot.
It's hot.
No, I think December. I think you come for Basil. I think you would enjoy it.
Yeah, at least
really cool. And listen, and literally everybody in the entertainment industry is doing something here during Basil. Like,
and I heard there's a lot of rich women that go there too. So, if I'm still single by then, so it'll be a good thing for me to look around and see what's around.
Next thing you talk about, I'm moving. I'm living over here on South.
Right? I don't know, but I don't know what the future holds. So, but either way, I'm going to enjoy what I do and how I do it.
Exactly.
But once again, I do appreciate having the conversation.
I appreciate this.
And like I said, well, you already know. Like I said, once you have something for me, as far as with content, and if I don't respond, then
listen, I'm gonna hit you up. I'm gonna hit you up right and early.
And you remember, I think the last time I was like, "Why didn't you tell me it was like tomorrow?" And I'm like, and I
think I kind of forgot too on that one. But you always take care of me, so it's always.
But it's funny because there are times where I say I'm gonna do something, I get a phone call or something happens, and then everything just leaves. And I just wish that more people were understanding of that, because I'm getting older, so that means it's going to get worse. No.
Listen, we all do that,
Yeah.
You start something and then you get distracted, and then you're like, and then something. I was driving home yesterday from the TV station, and something clicked, and I was like, oh shoot, because in my mind I thought I had done that, but I just started to do it, but I never really finished it. So I was like, oh.
That happens to me on a daily basis.
On an hourly basis for me.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, wait a minute. I even forget to go to sleep when I'm supposed to go to sleep. That's how bad it is. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be sleeping right now. What am I doing? So
that sounds a little like senioritis. Anyway.
Hey, I'm up there in age.
I'm only 22 and a half, so I can't relate.
And I'm 21.
3.
Yeah. You notice I had to go under as opposed to over.
Right. Of course. All right. Well, I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
No problem. Thanks once again, and to everyone else. My friends are better than yours, unless you can show me better. I'm always going to believe that, because some of the friends you think are better than mine are probably my friends already. So, till the next time, this is Masthead, and this is Cosign. And I always do this because when I end it, it doesn't always end. So I just continue talking until
then you end it. Recording stops.